Hello, this is James again. I've come here to continue telling you about the plunder. As I said last time, this is explaining the causes of poverty in developing economies. I gave you the introduction and I promised to continue with capital acquisition to see how developing countries capital. And then after that, we'll discuss how they use capital. But it has been a while. The reason has been twofold. One is that the videos I make, I have to edit it, pay someone to edit it, and it's not cheap. So I decided to learn video editing myself, so I can edit my own video. And it was not easy, to be frank, it's not easy. It's a different work. Let's just say I'm working on it. I'm working on it. So that was one of the reasons why I've been you can hear from me for a while. And that is the first thing I wanted to say. Right, back to the plunder. I also said in the last video that young graduates in developing economy should take this book really and take a topic or two and research on it and write their own material on it. Because I was very concerned about the time. I've always said this one you see really big, but it's actually a summary. And I wanted to get it all in one place. So I left so many things out. I just wanted to talk briefly on many things. So if you find out that it's not complete, that's because it is not. So you can go and do more research and write on it. But I also said why students can do that. Now I'm coming here to say don't go and research a topic on your own because it's a lot of work. You will not believe it, but I put an unhealthy amount of work into it. I will not advise you to do the same. No, I have a friend or two, so there will be 2 or 3 of you. You take one topic at a time and you research on it and write up and discuss the topics and then write it into a book if you want. But don't go and do it on your own. Because it does not only take a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort and money. And some of the information you get will come from government. And for some reason, they don't want to give you that information. So you may have to contact many people and keep trying. It is not exactly easy to be reading enough material. You have to read many books. And go looking, running after people to see if they can give you government data. Because for some reason, some of the data are so bad that even people in government don't want to share it with other people. They may not want to share it with you. So have a friend or two and work on them together so that as you go along, you share your ideas to see how you can help each other. Because if you work for the outreach will have your names on it. It should not be for one person. So please, don't go challenging it all by yourself. For one, you may not be able to afford it because it is not exactly cheap. Please. That's the second thing I wanted to say. And it may be a good idea really for universities, economic departments for universities. So use this as the research topic for postgraduate students. Because it's very good for countries to know where their money is coming from and where their money is going. Because most of the time, what I found out that most of the time, where countries think their money is coming from is exactly the same place their money is disappearing from. You may think that you have inward investment, but the investor knows one thing that you don't know. What you call an investment is actually capital plant. Yes, that is another thing people need to know. Because if you have money and you don't know, you can't judge where your money is coming from and where it is going, you'll always be in financial trouble. That is why many developing economies are struggling because they don't know, they don't have the data, they don't compare the data on where the money is coming from and where it is going. They think money is coming, but it is not coming. It is going faster than it is going. So it might be a good idea for economic department or accounting department in universities to use this as postgraduate research topic. Okay? Thank you very much. So now we start on capital acquisition in developing economies. In Sierra Leone being the reference point, capital is acquired through three broad categories. Three. I categorize them as internal sources, external sources, and other. Those are the three broad categories I name. So now let's deal with the internal source. Internal sources are mainly commodities. Now, the commodities will include agricultural products and minerals, and then added to fishing out of it and maybe a separate topic. Now, agricultural products are coffee, cacao, timber, palm oil, all that comes from Sierra Leone. And in other countries, you have more. You have peanuts, you have coconut oil, you have many other agricultural products coming from developing economies. Right. For minerals in Sierra Leone, we have diamonds, we have gold, we have iron ore, we have rutile, we have bauxite. Now they found oil, and there is potential of oil and gas and more minerals as well. Many, many more are lying in the book. So those are the internal sources of capital. Now let's discuss them again. Because why money comes from there? Let's see if actually money comes from there. I'll just explain briefly so that you have an idea, because they are all topics that we'll discuss in greater detail in the group to see if money comes from there. Let's say agricultural product, coffee for instance. Coffee is sold at like between $2,000 and $3,000 a ton. 2016, 2017 figure. That works out at about between $2 to $3 per kilo of coffee. Yes, but the coffee is farmed by the farmer. He sells it to the big town, to the larger buyer. The larger buyer goes and sells it to the exporter. It's the exporter who gets the internationally quoted price. Yeah. So by the time you come back to this man, he makes his own profits, and then this man, so he gets maybe half of the internationally quoted price. So if it is between $2,000 to $3,000 per ton, so he gets somewhere between that works out to about $2 to $3 a kilo. If that is the case, he may get $1 to $2 a kilo. $1 to $3 a kilo. Now, you have to think that this man has put all his effort for a whole year on the brushing, harvesting, cleaning before he sells. And he only gets $1 to $2 a kilo. That means you will have to cost his labor at zero. You have to cost his labor at zero to make any profit. If his labor is not zero, let's say it's 20p per hour, then you make a lot. You make a lot. So coffee growing really and cocoa growing needs more examination, except the price of these commodities goes up in the international market, or there is a very massive government intervention. It is growing at a lot. But we'll explain that. This is just the introduction. We'll explain that. There are facts and figures to it. Yeah, so it's oil palm. Oil palm, in Sierra Leone, they sell palm oil in something called butter. Butter is like 10 gallons. So 10 gallons there about. A cost of a butter is let's say 100,000 leon. 100,000 leons. That works out at about somewhere between 3 and 4 pounds. 3 and 4 pounds. And it takes like two full-grown men working 2 days. Yes, cutting and preparing, boiling, processing to get that one butter. That will be 8 hours times 2. 16 hours to get 3 to 4 pounds. Now let's say 5 pounds. That's what you work for. 16 hours to 5 pounds. That is not really an economically viable amount. Because if you're going to work for that amount, you want to make sure you don't pour in at all, because you will not be able to pay for your mixer. You have no external expenses. So while internal sources help, these internal sources are good, we also have to look at them as not a source of over, really, because you are working for less than you need, less than your cost of living. So that is what happens. Then we have minerals. We have all these minerals, iron ore, we have gold, we have diamonds. I took 2 of those. I took iron ore and I looked at diamonds and I examined them. And frankly, the figures are bad. It's so bad, it's unreal. Yes. To a point that the tax rate, effective tax rate paid by, say, the iron ore mining company is 0.04%. Is what was paid to the state. So that's all you take of. No corporation tax, just royalty. When they pay the royalty, you factor and do the calculation 0.04% what they pay to the state. So they mine your resources and they pay you 0.04%. I mean, you're better off not mining. You're better off not mining. In fact, all the mining, you can see at the back of the book, I said, stop mining. Close down all the mining companies. You are better off not mining because you are losing money. The calculation shows that by mining, you are actually losing money, effectively paying the miner, because all they're doing is defrauding you. Yes, there are facts and figures. These are all figures here. I calculated to show the fraud that takes place in the mining company. Yeah, these are all the figures. There's so much fraud, it's unbelievable. So, that is capital acquisition, but we'll deal with them on the capital flight later. So, that is one of the internal revenue. Now, the last one is fishing. The Gulf of Guinea has the largest fishing population in the world. There is so much fish there. There are more fish there in the Gulf of Guinea than anywhere else in the world. But how African countries, West African countries, make money from that is to give fishing licenses to foreigners to come and fish in the waters. So the foreigners come and they use a illegal size net. They're so small that they clean out all the fishes, including the juvenile. They use massive trawlers. They're there all the time, day and night, they're fishing. Now, the problem that arises out of that is that the local fishermen can't catch any fish because the industrial fishing is putting down on the fish. Yes. They catch so much fish, they use some of the fish for fish baits. Fish meal. They make fish meal in Africa and they ship it to their own countries. That is what they do. So, the government of Sierra Leone gets like $7 million as licensing fees for from the fishing industry. But the amount of money they lose is over 150 million every year. So how you do the math? You think it's worth it? No, it is not. But that is how it has been. When we consider that under internal revenues, they get revenues anyway, 7.5 billion. Whether they lose more money, we consider later. So that is what happens. The other source of revenue is external sources. External sources are monies that come from outside, capital that emanates from outside into the country. The fourth one of those is FDI, foreign direct investment. Foreign direct investment is when a foreign company comes to your country and invests in your economy. Yeah, usually every country in the world wants somebody else to come and invest in their economy. So they create jobs, they pay tax to your country, and your economy is better off because they are there. It is a big deal in the Western world. You go to Asia, they call manufacturing companies come and manufacture here. Because Asia manufactures at a cheaper rate, like making car. A car made in Asia is made for less money than one made in Europe. Yeah, so Europeans specialize in high-end cars or high-end material, while the Asians specialize in cheaper product. If you want to buy a shirt in England here, it's most likely made in Pakistan or Bangladesh or somewhere there, because it's made for pennies. You can't make that here for the same price. You can make it, but it will cost a lot more. It's a profit margin. So they go to these countries, come here and assemble their cars, make their products, so they pay tax in the country. But in Africa, foreign direct investment is in two areas. One, the extractive industry, and two, in the service industry. So they come, the mining companies we spoke about, and the extractive industry, and the banks, the mobile phone companies, the insurance companies, the accountants, the solicitors, every other group is in the service sector. Right. So they create jobs and they increase the economy in the short term, always in the short term. When a service company comes to your country, they do create jobs. That is what happened. So those two areas, and then the extractive industry, as we said earlier, we examine much later that they are what? They are the sole cause of poverty in developing countries. And it's evident. We can do the calculations to see how bad they are. So both the FDI, the foreign direct investments, actually only works in the short term. In the long term, the effect is worse than it works. The situation was anything. But we'll deal with those later. The second is loan. There was an explosion of loans since the Second World War. We have two companies, we have two institutions, the World Bank and the IMF. They are collectively called the Bretton Woods Institution. So help countries with long-term development, that's the World Bank, and the IMF was to help countries with short-term budget deficits. They gave short-term loans and help countries with balance of payment problems. But over the years, they have evolved into what they were not, the opposite of what they were supposed to do. They were supposed to help countries, but now they are a problem. But even so, countries go and borrow from them. and borrowing from them. So getting loans is a major source of capital in developing countries. When the IMF stops giving, many African countries go to China, they go to India, they go to Russia, they go to the Arab world, anywhere where they can borrow money, they will go. The reason is mainly simple. When the IMF lends you money, they impose conditionality. One of them is to curtail spending. Two is to improve democracy. Three, transparency. And then four, to concentrate on the extractive sector, on the primary sector. You must sell raw materials. You cannot try to manufacture. No, they don't like that. If you manufacture, they will not give you more loan. You have to concentrate on the primary sector, sell raw material. The problem with raw materials, as we discussed later, and with democracy, if they say you must be Democrat, that means presidents have to call elections every 4 or 5 years. But if someone calls elections for every 4 or 5 years, his main focus is within those 4 or 5 years. He goes and borrows loans and make up 30 things in that 4 or 5 years. So it looks good for the next election. He wins, after that, they don't really care. Next time somebody else comes, they do the same thing. You borrow money, they look good, they make the streets, they build bridges, they take solar electricity for villages. So people who can't pay for electricity, if the solar panel is going to break and they have to repair it, the villagers won't be able to pay. But they have a hope. And that is what the government wants. And so once the government gets their hope, then the world is a better place. Or he is a better place. So that is what happened. So we have had loans. All African countries have loans now. So a point that it is becoming a problem to pay. But they don't care because they'll be there for 5 or 10 years and they don't. That would be somebody else's headache. Because they will be gone. That is the reason why there are so many loans. And it has become a main source of capital in developing economies. The other one is remittances. Remittances are money paid by citizens who live abroad, who live away from home. When you live away from home, usually some of the people who live away from home, they don't come from the top end of society. They come from the middle or from the bottom. So they have to send money back to help their family. But even people who come from the top, they still have to do things. They have to build houses. There's always a need to send money back home. There's always a need to send money back home. When you send money back home, you help the local economy, or you also help your family. When you do, and collectively, the remittances amount to, in Sierra Leone at least, is the highest source of capital that comes to the state. And not only Sierra Leone, most African countries, except those who have oil and gas, remittances amount to a single highest amount of capital that comes. In Egypt, it is higher than the amount coming from the Suez Canal. In Sierra Leone, remittances are more than double what they get from the taxes paid by all the mining companies, plus the economic aid. Just remittances at 55 million or so in 2022. It was more than every other source of income. So it's a major source of income. And I gave some suggestions on how to address that. There can be structure to address it so that it goes into the right channels, or it helps the nation and it helps those who are remitting money to family. Right. So the last one is foreign aid. foreign aid like loans came to prominence after the Second World War. And now there are so many aid agencies. There are aid agencies for everything, from women's issues, from children's issues, schools, everything. They're all there in Africa, doing different things. They are good in the short term. Whether in the long term they are useful, I don't know. But we'll address it later. After here, the next topic we'll address will be foreign aid. I'll tell you the usefulness and if aid is useful in the long run. Okay. So the next one is order. We dealt with the internal sources, we dealt with external sources, now we deal with the others. Others, the first one is youth culture. You know, I stated that Africa has the youngest population in Africa. About 60% of Africans are below the age of 30. On average. Because countries like Burkina Faso, 80% of the population are below 30 years old. 80%. Yes, and I think it's even larger in some countries. So when you have such a young age in the country, there are good and bad sides. Because you either have to provide for them or they will provide for themselves. Or they will be a problem to you. Yeah. The young working age is called a demographic dividend. Yes. That is having a young working population because you benefit from them for a long time. But you have to work towards creating that dividend. Otherwise, it will become a tax to you. Now, how does youth culture bring cap? I'll explain to you. When I was growing up, if someone was 20 years older than you didn't really relate to them because they were too old. Yeah, they were too old. You couldn't relate to that person. And so you didn't have a conversation with the person because they talk different. You just didn't gel together in any form. But now, that number has come to like 10 years. If someone is 10 years younger than you can't really relate to that person. I live in England and that number is even small. Yes, you can't relate to the young anymore. The young, they have their own language, they have their own way of writing, they have their own music, they have their own way of dressing, they have their own passion. You can't relate to them at all, at all, at all. Yes. And food is the same for everybody. No, not here. In Africa, here, we Africans, we have our own food. And the children we have here, they don't like our food. And there is nothing you can do about it. They do stand it because they don't have a place to go, but really they don't like it. Yes. So, I mean, that's just the way it is. Because they're younger, they have their own music, they make their own music. They make their own music. So that is what has happened over the years. Graduates in some countries like Nigeria, Ghana, Ethiopia, bigger countries, South Africa, not every country, bigger countries, they took a camera, unemployed graduates, took a camera and started filming themselves, and they made a whole industry called Nollywood. And nowadays, their music is also there. Afrobeats. Afrobeats is a big thing. Every country has its own form of music, but because there are so many young people, you have a lot of music coming every day, every day, every day. Yes, because of the population. So that is a source of capital in developing countries. The problem with that is that even though Nollywood films are popular, it is not properly structured or channeled to bring money into the countries responsible for producing them. Also, musicians get defrauded. Nollywood films are made, they are printed in another country. By the time the film comes to home for distribution, someone else has it and is distributing it on his own. So the funders and the producers get very little money. They have been defrauded by some fraud. So that's the problem. Fraud is the major issue in there. So I wish it can be structured. Mhm. So that is a way of capital acquisition, but it needs more work. Same as tourism. Tourism there are many good tourist sites in Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone is one of the best places to go if you want to get away. If you want to go and see exotic culture, you want to get away from the Western world, come to Sierra Leone. The coffee is the best. The coffee runs just below Arabica coffee. Yes, it's above the other coffees. For some reason, I can't really explain why. Why it is better than the local coffee labeled and the coffee in the area. So come, and the food is like nothing you've seen. Yes, so come to Sierra Leone, get our coffee and eat best of Sierra Leone food is there all the time. Prepare by our women and you will love it. Go and try and come and thank me later. However, the tourism needs more work. There are many tourist sites. If you have the Gola Forest, original forest that goes all the way to Liberia, all the way to Guinea, it has never been inhabited. There. If you want to see the largest trees on earth, go to the Gola Forest. There is wild animal sanctuary. You have exotic animals there, and there is a cabin where you can go. It's a tourist site. Come there, then you have the savannah, you have grasslands, you have many tourist sites. In the south, there are also different tourist sites. And Sierra Leone is just an all-round beautiful place to visit. Yeah, so please come to Sierra Leone. The last is financial services and manufacturing. Regrettably, there isn't much to say about it because financial services are provided by foreigners in Africa. You don't have many indigenous African banks going from international. They are there, but they are not many. Most of the banks are Western banks. Most of the financial services are provided by Europeans. Usually they cover colonial assets. Those are the ones we call foreign direct investment. Yes, they are in service. Those are the services that they provide. Manufacturing is almost non-existent. There are only, of all the manufacturing that takes place in the world, Africa accounts for about 2%. 2. And that happens in South Africa because of South Africa. We in the rest of Africa do not have much manufacturing. So, there's very little to talk about others. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video. I'm going to tell you about foreign aid.